everyone. Welcome to our live non-waste session. Uh, and we're very excited to be here on another Sunday afternoon. Um, Yet again, thinking very hard and trying our best to bring to you, topics that are going to be interesting, that we will be able to discuss amongst each other. And so here we are today with small changes create a big impact. So we're going to be talking about how small actions, small steps, or small intentions even can lead to making big changes and creating an impact in our lives. So let's talk about it, girls. This topic that we've chosen, it's fairly impactful itself because it talks about how small changes create a big impact. So what is a big impact, first of all? When we talk about big impact, what do we mean by that? Hamza?
Um, for me, a big impact is the one that lasts a longer time or that changes your life to become what it is in your present at the moment. Like, let's say you inculcated a certain change in your life, and that change turned into a certain lifestyle of yours now.
Yeah.
So I would call that a big impact in terms of how consistent you could be at it, in terms of how it shaped your life, in terms of how your life is at the moment. I mean, it took over. That for me is a big impact.
Okay, fair enough. Misha?
So the big impact, small changes create a big impact. So anything that is big always started from something small. So everyone who did something great, who achieved something great, took those baby steps to gain to achieve that success that they have right now. So taking small steps and changing, doing something new is is a big impact for me there, because I was able to do it today, because I was able to motivate myself to do this thing, that because motivating yourself is also a big thing. So that's a big impact for me.
Yes, absolutely agreed. Like, both of you said, big impact is a lasting effect or sort of a lasting, sustainable change that you brought about in your life, which makes you as a person more anchored and powerful, empowers you, and also brings about a very constructive, um, meaningful effect and shaped your life in a more sort of stronger way. So that is a big impact. And like we've clearly stated it in this statement that small changes, right? So and like you said, Misha, a lot of people that were inspired by a lot of successful people. So many so many people to talk about, but they've all told their stories and said that we started out with small steps. And why is it that we take those small steps or we make those small changes and we don't like we're not stating here in our topic that if you want to make a big impact, go all the way, like go in or take a longer leap. But instead we're saying small changes, small steps. So why are we encouraging that? How is that more effective in creating a big impact rather than just diving in and doing it the other way around? Misha?
So I want to quote Dalai Lama over here, that we have already mentioned in our intro, that if you think you cannot make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito in the room. So if a mosquito can affect your good night sleep,
Yeah.
so, and that's why those baby steps, for example, that you want to um, right, we start with our example, that we wanted to create an impact in the society, and we thought that how we can create it. So we went going live, um, like twice a month. Then we went going live thrice a month. Now we are doing every week.
Mm.
So that's how we are creating an impact, by doing something that we are not comfortable at. So we are doing something out of our comfort zone. So these are the baby steps, that small changes. If we are making 2% of a difference every day, that 2% counts, create a compound effect, and that leads to 100% if you just gauge it by the end of the year or by the end of the month. So just imagine that you're going to achieve those goals by the end of the month or by end of the week, and then write it down every day that you achieved this, and then on Monday read those things and give yourself a treat on it. So that's what small and changes, and how they create a big impact.
Yes, that's true. Um, no, absolutely. And I liked the saying that you picked up from Dalai Lama, and that is in fact very profound. And I mean, I guess you could be strongly like putting the point across that if you think you're insignificant or if you think you can't do anything, and if you're feeling small in whatever capacity, like look at other smaller, like really small, like minute creatures and creations of the universe, and at the end of the day everything has a purpose and the power is within you, right? And again we'll pick it up from there. So when we talk about small changes, right, um, are there, I mean, do you have personal examples to relate this with? I know you girls do. So I'd just like you to go ahead and share it, put some light onto your personal journey and relate it to this statement, how small changes create a big impact and how starting out small really is very effective. So, and gives you a head start toward that goal or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So, do share with me.
So, Dr. Hafsa, do you want to go first or should I start?
I think Dr. Hafsa didn't hear that. Maybe
Yeah.
some activity issue. Misha, go ahead, take the cue.
Can you hear me now? We're
Yeah,
having a
yeah,
bit
we
of a
can hear.
connectivity issue. So
Yeah.
can you hear me now? All right.
Yeah.
From my personal life, I think the small changes that created a big impact were certain small decisions. I mean, let's say in the 5 minutes of the morning, a nice happy thought comes over, and you decide to make that inculcate that little change in my life, and I see it turning into a lifestyle now. Uh, we've said this before. The decision to wake up early in the morning was a small change I wanted to make to my life, and it added to a huge impact. And it molded, shaped my life into what it is today. The extended number of hours I get, the energy that I am driven with this morning. So this was one little change that I made to my life, just getting up early, and it impacted everything around me. So I think for me, this is one example of how something small created a profound effect. Was I audible? Because I feel like we're having some connectivity issues.
No, you're
No,
very
no,
much audible right now. So
we
keep
can hear you.
All right.
Okay.
So this is how having a little small decision, a small step, creating a huge impact and a lifestyle change in my life. So this was one example that I can think of at the moment.
Yeah, and that's a very that's a wonderful example because the habit of waking up early that you mentioned, that is a very meaningful and effective and strong way of making an impact. I think that early morning rising habit, just getting those extra number of hours, or maybe you know not even if those extra number of hours, but those, I mean, obviously, like if you get an early start, you're invariably more effective. So you get that effectiveness of the day. You make most use of it. So yes,
Yeah.
great example there, Misha.
I just want to talk about the financial part, that how making small changes to my spending habits had created a good number of saving for me. So, because talking about finances is a very difficult part, it's a very difficult part for everyone, because everybody wants to just have everything, but nobody is just going to gauge the numbers, that these are the things that I'm spending, and this is very important, and these are the not the things that are not important. So, before like this year, before 2020, I was spending whatever, whenever my paycheck is my in my account, so I was spending like crazy.
Mhm.
So this year I was mindful, and because I was looking at my other peers that they were able to save that kind of stuff, that kind of a money, because they were earning the same amount of number as me, and they had um, much greater savings than me as compared to me, because we started earning at same point in time, but I was just spending. So this year I cut down all the extra expenses that were not worth it, and thanks to COVID also, that also reduced my spendings. So, and then I made a chart on it. So by the end of the year, now I look at my financial status, I'm much more content and I'm greater savings. So that's how I cut down on all the extra things that I felt was necessary, but they were not. So then I made like what's important, what's not. This is the small changes that I did on monthly basis, and that created a big impact when I see the numbers in my saving account. So alhamdulillah for that.
No, I think
So
that
this
is a brilliant example that you
something
gave
we could
there.
all learn from.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think this is a really great tip that you just gave in there. But what I want to point out is like Misha, how you went about that is that you kind of uh, put a self check
Yeah.
slash accountability sort of check on yourself. So you made yourself accountable financially. And over here, I want to also talk about the because when we were discussing about this topic only me and you, Misha, earlier on, and that article you shared, it said that you shouldn't be comparing yourself. But I want to point out here, when you're comparing yourself to your peers or to your colleagues or to anybody else for that matter, in a constructive way where you're trying to use that comparison as a learning tool, as a
As an
learning
inspiration.
process, and you're trying to better what you're doing, your actions, then that is a very healthy comparison, and that is necessary, because at the end
Yes.
of the day we are here and we live in we're human beings and we're like in social packs, and invariably and inevitably we are sort of competing, not necessarily with each other, but we are competing in our minds with ourselves to get better every day with the version of ourselves that we want to improve. So this is a great example of self check, and I think self check is so important. And without self check, I mean, I think you cannot even realize the changes that are important to make yourself better or make anything in your life better. So, like the first thing is to really analyze what's not working, what is dissatisfying you, what is making you unhappy, and then break that down. Okay, what is it? So, in Misha's case, it was a financial, accountability, and she realized when she brought that self check, she realized, okay, these are the unnecessary spendings. Maybe I can just do without them, and she ended up feeling more content about her financial status. Similarly, I would like to share about myself that the the thing that I think I have done in regards to small changes is that there was a point in my life where, because I'm a mother and I'm a housewife as well. I stayed home, and then I was studying as well and doing other things, and I found that I was not getting any time for myself, and that was very dissatisfying at the end. No matter what I did for everybody and how happy I was making everyone and everyone's lives, but that lacking, that deficit that was coming in, so lack of sleep or lack of me time, and I would say it was lack of me time really, because it was that lack of space where I could really allow myself to connect with my own self and see what it is that I want. So when I did that self check, what is it? Why is it that I'm still dissatisfied or discontent? It came down to, well, because I don't think I'm putting in enough effort for myself. And then realizing, okay, so I'm extremely busy, and I've got a million things on my list. But okay, where can I start off? Where can I give myself that extra space? And for me, it started out again, like Hafza is saying, waking up early. After the kids go to sleep, getting my gym in, giving myself that 1 hour for my own time, and then doing whatever else it was, and then slowly, stepwise, I created that which almost looked like I wouldn't have been able to do it. How was I going to get 2 hours for myself in the entire day? But once, I sat down and took those baby steps, it started happening. And I felt more sort of content and in control of my own feelings. So small changes creating a big impact. I think when you do these small changes, suddenly you start taking back control also of your life, and that sense of dissatisfaction, whatever it is, starts going away. So we talked about early rising habits. We talked about habits. I think habits play a big role when we talk about small changes, and creating
Yeah.
impact. I think habits, changing habits, adopting new habits, creating habits. How do you think habits, daily habits, are linked to this big impact that we're talking about and changes? Are they effective? Having hobbies and habits, is it necessary? Would you say is it helpful to bring about a healthy change in your life, to adopt some kind of habit that is healthy, constructive, and you enjoy? How do you feel that?
Exactly. So I was reading this. I was listening to this audio book on Audible by James Clear, the Atomic Habits. So in Atomic Habits, he just mentioned that how to break a bad habit and create a new one. So habits play a very important role in gaining the control, the power that you talked about, that you were talking about, in gaining the control back. For example, that I will talk about, that you want to develop a habit of rising up early, or you want to develop a habit of going to the gym. What you need to do is you need to first analyze your situations, that what situations can trigger me not to develop that habit. So first minimize those situations. For example, that you were going to say that I am going to do yoga every day or do a workout every day, but choosing 30-minute workout that you hate the most is not a solution of developing that habit. You need to
Yeah.
first be attracted to that habit that you like. So choose something that is easier for you and that you can do easily. So instead of just getting yourself enrolled to a 30-minute or a 60-minute program, try doing 10 minutes, 10 minutes of workout every day, and that is easier for you, not a punishing workout that you are sweating and you don't want to do it. This is how you're going to develop a habit, and that's the power of habit. So that's what habits can make a big impact if you choose it wisely, that this is how you're going to develop it.
Yeah, choose it wisely. I like that suggestion. In fact, I think it's very true because, again, like we were talking about comparison, like you could just say that, oh well, this is where you can start really doing that. Oh well, this person is, doing this and it's working out really well for them. I should do the same. No, actually, you need to figure out what works for you, what works for you mentally, physically, biologically. Yes, and like Misha said, that you really have to, uh, you know, as for a hobby, I would say, take up things that you enjoy. Otherwise, it's not going to last, and that natural resistance is going to come in. And habits do really, really anchor you to get that, those changes, um, coming in and leading to that big impact. So, Dr. Hafza, what about you? Any habit that you feel has, anchored you towards that big impact that you wanted to attract?
I habits represent an absolute need in a personality to be able to live a fulfilling life, which is consistence. They develop a very important virtue in you, which is consistent, which is what defines a habit from a sudden decision to do something differently. Habit is something you need to do consistently in order for it to become a habit in the first place. I mentioned the waking up early part. Apart from that, I think the one habit that really changed everything was taking out some time of the month, or let's say in a fortnight, going to a different place away from my usual, sitting with myself and having a notebook with me, sipping coffee, or just sitting by and reflecting on everything around is what has really helped me a lot. Before COVID, I used to do this thing called solo dating. I used to take myself out every month or every two
I
weeks.
think that is
And then sit with myself.
like,
I would
yeah.
take my coffee and I would reflect on life. I would think about what I'm doing, where am I at right now, what am I going to do ahead, what do I need to do. The healthy comparison came in as well, that in what areas. I really think it's a very important thing to keep looking at the strongest aspect of your peers and people around you and take some good
Yeah,
inspiration from it and inculcate that into your own personality. There was this quote which said that,
absolutely.
I'm all the people I've met and I've all the books I've read and I'm all the movies I've watched. So I would say this is us and this is me too. I am pretty much all the people I've come across in life. I'm pretty much all the things I've thought of, stuff I've read, and the movies I've watched. And I kind of owe that to the hours that I could take out for myself every now and then and give myself that. It makes me very fulfilled and very happy.
Yeah. No, I totally, endorse that. And I think what you talked about is like self-partnering. Like the first person you're supposed to partner up with when you want to create any kind of positive change or any kind of impact is partner with yourself. At least, you know, get to know what it is that you really want. And then, the first, and there's also a saying that if you want to change the world, first change yourself. And that doesn't mean that change who you are. It means that your unhappiness or your dissatisfaction from the external environment or the external is coming from some kind of lacking in the internal, and you need to recognize
Absolutely.
that first. What is it internally that is making you feel unhappy or a negative way towards the external? So that inward reflection is really important, and you cannot do that until you self partner and spend time with yourself. Going ahead with this, I also want to say that while we're sharing, like, the small changes that lead to a big impact, something that I've also consciously done, and I really want to bring this up because I think this is important for everyone, and this I can say for sure is something that needs to be done on an individual level by everyone, and it really helps you break free of that feeling of dissatisfaction or that you have when it comes to the external. I, over the last years, quite a few years now, um, and when I talk about self check and self partnering, realized that one of the other things that was making me unhappy and disappointed was my expectations from others to make me happy or to do the things in the way that I wanted them to. So that was for me a game changer. Once I realized that, happiness, really, and joy, a big part of that secret is to let go of the enormous burden of expectations that we have put on others to make us happy. Just let go of that, because no one can make you happy. And the more expectations you have of others, and they could be healthy expectations as well. And of course, we have to expect, like, like I said, we're social animals and we have relationships. And of course, those needful expectations are there and they're necessary. But you know how we look to the outside to make us happy? Friends' approval, family's approval. If I've done this for somebody, they should be doing it back for me. That kind of thinking. I think once I broke free of it, and then another thing, big part of that was how much is it that I need to put in for others, and how little does it allow me to put in for myself, right? And when you understand that relationship, that you are, no matter how much you do for people, at the end of the day you have to make yourself happy. So don't kind of create a healthy balance in giving and in taking, right? So once I let go of those expectations, that was a game changer for me, because it suddenly put myself in that accountability bureau that, okay, I'm accountable for the way I'm feeling. Self check, why am I feeling like this? And then instantly it opened me up to the fact that, okay, what if is this expectation of mine that I have of my kids or my family or my friends even realistic? Do they even understand it? I think it's more me expecting in my head. I haven't even communicated it to them. So can I communicate it to them so that they know what it is that I'm expecting? Secondly, then you bring in that conversation. Other people can let you know their limitations. Well, this is, you know, impractical. Well, this is a bit, uh, too much of you to ask me. And it brings about that clarity, and you step back. And for me, that was a game changer. And that is I think the change that I took over slowly. that I release myself of those expectations, and instantly I think that has that not instantly but over time that has been transformative for me mentally and uh, you know sort of spiritually as well.
That's
So yeah, you know,
that's quite something that you really
Absolutely.
talked about. That because earlier today I was reading something on these expectations and how stop comparing and about that. So you have explained it quite thoroughly. So
yeah,
and it's our inbuilt habit. We start expecting from one another, and that leads us to problematic relationships. For example, let me add something to your point. Adding to that, that
mm,
people who are unmarried and they have expectations that they will be happier if they marry the other person.
yeah,
So any all women, all unmarried people who are watching this should know that nobody is in charge of your
everybody, yeah,
nobody is in charge of your happiness.
yeah,
Okay, so no one is in charge of you. If you're not happy with them, how can you make that other person happy? Okay,
yeah,
so
Absolutely. If you
okay,
can't enjoy your own company, then you can't
yeah,
expect yourself to enjoy
yeah,
as a couple or as a partner. You have a partner.
because this is how the relationship builds. You have to be content, you have to be satiated within yourself in order to make a fulfilling relationship. So these small changes, if you start developing in yourself, it doesn't come overnight. You need to tell yourself daily, because that's what doctor stop expecting doesn't come like overnight. You can feel
yeah,
regrets over time, but you are there, you are accountable, be your accountable buddy, and start self talking yourself that this is how that you're going to build upon yourself and take small steps that will lead to have a better impact in your life, a big difference. So that's how
Absolutely.
I wanted to conclude it.
no, I second that, and yes, you know, we have to, and I think like, you know, like we've talked about that enough, that release yourself of these unnecessary expectations, this load of expectation that you put onto others, and in turn you burden yourself of the need for fulfillment of those expectations. So it's like a, it's not, it's a lose lose situation, right?
I'd like
So
to add something to that
you,
though.
yes,
Um,
please go.
you know how our physical growth are obviously things that are happening out of our control. Things our genetics are leading into, they're making us tall or they're making us wider or something of the sort. But I think our internal growth are those small changes we inculcate. For example, what Misha just mentioned about our expectations from a future partner, or what you mentioned, your expectation from other people around. That is innately because as babies and as children, we're just in the habit of receiving. Our genuine
Yes,
expectations are from the external and they're justified at that stage. But to be able to understand that I now need to move on to a different stage and the adult mindset, that is a thing in your own hands. And that is something that lies in the small changes you make and the small decisions you take. So if you still want to categorize yourself as a small kid, dependent on everybody, expecting things from everybody that people should understand you, or if I'm feeling grumpy, this should have been understood by people around me, or if I'm everybody should know how things go around. Unfortunately, because our culture keeps endorsing that kind of dependency, people grow their entire lives and turn into these adult babies. And it takes a small, mindful decision to make a big impact to know that you're an adult and responsible, and your expectations are all from yourself and not from others around you.
yeah, agreed, absolutely. And moving on, you know, to
Exactly.
our next part, since you know, we've talked a lot about how to create those small changes and take those small steps towards in different directions towards achieving different sort of goals and different states in our life. So we talk about financial aspects, and we talk about personal growth and personal development, and we talked about self partnering. I want to now talk about small changes that we can take in our community. How do we become a better citizen? How do we become a better citizen of humanity? You know, ambassador of humanity. How do we become better at contributing? A lot of us, when the responsibility comes on ourselves, and let's start from our country, right? Our community. we'd say, oh well, this is like this because this particular, I don't know, the infrastructure is so bad because it's up to the government. What can we do? Or we have so much poverty. Well, the government doesn't look after its people. What can we do? But as again, as you when you bring on that self accountability and you say, well, forget about everybody else. What can I do to make my society, my community better? That's when you can also make small changes and really participate in that intention that you've set up yourself. So give me, I would like you girls to share with me. I know that you're amazing, citizens of and society, people, individuals of society who in your aspect are working towards that kind of institution. Tell me, like, so when this narrative comes up, well, what can we do? We live in a poverty-struck area, or this particular area is not looked after, or we're suffering as a country because our government is lacking. Yes, all of that is true. But how do we come in and the small changes come in?
Um, for example, that
This
Dr. Hub,
question, okay.
yeah, no, no, Dr. Hafsa, I would just wanted to add over here that, the small changes we were talking about once, I don't know if you remember or not, people just throw a litter everywhere.
Yes.
So, and I and Dr. Hafsa strongly believe about that people should not litter.
Yeah.
So once we were in a cab, so um, the cab driver just threw something out, and I was with Dr. Hafsa, and then what she did was like she just picked it up and then told him that not to throw it again. So this was the small change that she did on her part, and I
Yeah.
was there, and I was like, whenever my friends throw something out like outside the car, I'm like, are you educated even or not? Why are you littering the city? Like, because
Yes.
everyone litters, that means that you should litter as well.
Exactly.
So that is the small change that we have. Like, so I and Dr. Hafsa, like, these are the small experiences that if everyone starts doing it, not to throw something outside, that can keep our environment clean. So this is something one should do on their part,
Yes,
regardless
and
of
I
if
that
remember
others
is
are
that.
doing or not.
I kind of remember that, and what goes around comes around. So if you're throwing around rubbish in the atmosphere, it's
Yeah.
going to come back to you, no matter what.
yes.
Besides this, I think the one change that we can make in the society is I think it's a very valid question that you asked, Dr. Sana. Really appreciate this. At the current stage in time we are in right now, amidst the pandemic, your decision to, let's say, number one, wear your safety gadgets or protective wear, such as masks, and
Mm.
letting people know that they're supposed to wear that as well, I think it's a very big thing you can do. The laws are in place now. You will be fined if you don't wear them. So if you can take the step to not let, let's say, somebody using the same elevator as you, to not step in without a mask and let them know that, excuse me, first for yourself, of course, and secondly, do point that out to them that, excuse me, I don't want to be near you if you don't have a mask on. That's a small change that we as society can inculcate. The police can't be hounding us in every centimeter that we walk in. So long as we
Yes.
have the people in our vicinity that we can impact, and it's absolutely legal for us to tell them to do so, that's a big change that we as a community can make at the moment in in helping ourselves recover, become better, stay healthier.
Yeah, I think that was very relevant in terms of the pandemic and the COVID situation because we all are suffering from a second wave in the world. It's not just, and there is no distinction between developed and underdeveloped countries. Like this virus has not respected any kind of disparity of wealth or power. In this case, it's a ubiquitous to everybody. So I do think that as good ambassadors and citizens now, and people of humanity, that is that is one responsibility, and I can relate to it because I was out one of these days and I was at a bookshop buying some stationery for my kids, and I saw these two individuals who were actually wearing lab coats, right? And so they were doctors, I figured, or they're students, and they weren't wearing masks, and I just
That's
turned around.
bad.
Yeah, and I just politely turn around and say, "Excuse me, just please don't mind, but that you should be wearing a mask, and the reason that I'm asking you to wear a mask is because it's not just for yourself; it's for us, it's for other people. So that responsibility, that It's not just enough to do everything in your power to protect yourself or be like, okay, well, I have had corona, I'm safe, I have the antibodies. You might be, but what about others? It is our responsibility as good citizens and humans to be responsible for others. And I think I'm glad that this part about the mask and being cautious has come up, because it is very instrumental now that we're in the second phase of the pandemic. We're not just responsible for ourselves, but we're responsible for other people as well, right?
I'd
So
like to
that,
clear a concept here, though. I mean, very good that you mentioned this. So, just a little public service message around because we're healthcare providers as well. Guys, if you've had COVID once, that doesn't mean you're immune for life. It has
yes,
been proven that your immunity can last, and there's no guarantee at the moment. It's everything's under a trial and error situation. We've known people who unfortunately passed away with the reinfection. I mean,
yes.
people in our community, in our country, and people all over the world. So there is no guarantee that it's still safe for you to just go walk about without a mask, or it's safe for others, that you might not become a carrier again. So
Absolutely,
at
and
least have a
hence
sense
the second
to
wave.
it.
That's why the world is suffering from a second wave, because there are
Absolutely.
relapses that are happening, and I do know of this because I have known, people socially, and I hear of people who say, "Well, we've had it, so we're safe." You are safe only for the limited time that the antibodies are in your system, but eventually they fade out, and the virus is such that you lose immunity once the antibodies go out, and you become susceptible again. So yes, we shouldn't think that just because we've had it we are safe, absolutely safe. And secondly, we should also consider that we may have had it, but we have to protect others. So that I think is very important, was important, and I'm glad we brought that up. But in the end, lastly, I want to get on. So we talked about how we can make changes towards other people. But in the end, I still want to come back to the part where, as individuals, who every individual, every person has some kind of vision for themselves, be it big, be it small, it's all relative, right? But everybody has a vision, everybody has a dream, right? um, I want you to leave our viewers with suggestions of how to achieve that big dream or that big vision, or not big vision, small dream, simple pursuit, whatever it may be. How do you achieve that while you're making those small changes? And I want you to relate it personally in terms of your own vision and dreams. Anything that you are doing, any goals that you've set up, how is that working for you? And how will that help benefit people who are watching?
I okay. I, as a child, remember my parents being very involved in my parenting in terms of the knowledge I received. We have always been reading books since we were kids. But that was one little thing that we did in our lives that created every big change that happens today and, makes us the people that we are. So, amongst those books, there was this book called The Book of Virtues. And there were so many examples quoted from amazing personalities or people who did big things in life. George Washington, Genghis Khan, or Greek heroes. And there were these little virtues that they pointed out in their personality, which impacted their entire life journey to become the stories that I was reading at that moment. So let's give the example of Abdul Sattar Reddy. His mother used to pack an extra set of lunch for him just to be able to share it with the people who were around him at school, or wherever he was going to educate himself. So you see that little habit of sharing turned into his entire lifestyle, his legacy. And I think this is what the message that I would like to leave our viewers with, that if you have a certain vision of the person you want to become or a dream that you have for yourself, look at the one little thing you can do today that might, grow into bigger worlds eventually, inshallah, and make that your legacy. So, one of our Norway motto is to let's make create a legacy, and I think that's what I'd like to leave our viewers with. Create a small change, a small thought, a small decision. Sit with yourself for a bit and think about what you can do. One little habit you can inculcate today, which is definitely going to eventually create ripple effects on your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a beautiful
That's
example
amazing.
you gave of Dr. Abdul Sattar Idi. No, sorry, not he wasn't. He was just Mr. Abdul Sattar Idi. And if we have people who are listening and who don't know, he's one of our, he's in fact our country's and one of the world's greatest philanthropists and ambassadors of humanity. Did a lot of unbelievably amazing work for orphans, for homes, for poverty, for illness, everything. So great inspiration, and that's really touched me because I didn't know that Hamza, that his mother used to pack an extra lunch, and you can just tell in this story that how he was touched, how he was inspired by a simple act that perhaps was passed on to him unintentionally by his mother, just and it affected, inspired something, and he went on making that his entire life, his entire journey, sharing with other people. So yes, Misha, do you have anything to add to that?
I just want to add in the end that we are all the we have all the control. So instead of just saying that I have a vision, but I don't have the resources about it, we have the resources. If we start something, even we don't have the money to go about it, but we have the skill. So start practicing whatever you want to achieve in life, whatever your vision is. If you can't achieve it alone, combine, share it with people who have the same vision. So their vision your vision becomes their vision, and eventually that can create an impact in a lot of people's life. So that's what I want to talk about, that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So that's the proverb that I really believe, and that's how we started it. So in order to make great change, connect with people and create an impact.
Yes, yes, very, very beautifully said. And I mean, in the end, I'd just like to say that, since we're talking about vision and achieving your vision and goals, every vision starts with an idea. And like Misha says, that, and I do believe that to create an idea, you don't need any money. The idea is in itself organic, it comes from within. And if you really are driven, then resources are the next thing. The first thing is to sit down and really say, okay, what is it that I can do with all my faculties to take this idea to the next step, and then you draw out a process. You draw out steps. This is what we mean by small changes. You just go step by step, and you'll find that one step leads to the other, and the next paves the way for the third, and eventually you find that all the resources that you're worrying for, it's not easy, but they come up. So we leave you with that, with that note, with that thought, with that intention, that if you want to make a big impact, a big change, if you're looking or if you're struggling to create a big impact, or create a change or create any kind of achievement, we encourage you to take those small steps and small changes. So have a great weekend. We'll catch you again next week, hopefully, with yet another interesting, motivating subject. Until then, happy weekend.
Happy weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy Sunday. Bye.